Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei on Tom Monk Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is a founder and head teacher of Guaizen Philo-Cultural Society. He has extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight we will be speaking about cultivation in the martial arts. Thank you for joining us again, Lin.
Hey, this is great. Okay, cultivation in the martial arts. This is going to be an interesting subject for all those martial art practitioners, Tai Chi, Bagua, and, well, just not limited to the Chinese martial arts, but we'll basically be talking about those tonight. So sorry for those who practice everything else but Chinese martial arts.
Yeah, we'll probably mainly focus on the more internal arts, or what are more widely considered the internal arts, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah. We're going to eradicate the ideas of internal, external, and we're going to look at the idea of martial arts as a function for just fighting and a function for just cultivating the mind. So we're going to really go a little deep within the next 45 minutes.
Yeah, so in terms of martial arts, you've got two schools of thought. You know, some people say that you learn martial arts to fight, and then the other school of thought says you learn martial arts so you don't have to fight. I'm more in the second school, I guess. And
Right.
even more than that, I'm more interested in the martial arts in terms of what they can do spiritually, how they can help us energetically.
Very cool. So that's going to a point of how they can help to open up our wisdom. How can we enter the way? We'll just use the famous word Dao, enter the Dao. You know, Ru Dao means to enter the path, enter the way. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, right? All the time you spend in martial arts, you know, you spend years studying, polishing your techniques and postures and such. And really, the reality is, how many times are there actually fights that you have to partake in that you can't just walk away from? You know, very few,
True.
if any.
True, very true. And people mostly look at the stories of these old masters, you know, who have had exceptional skill, you know, and see stories of them, you know, fighting people and throwing them without hurting them, or, you know, disappearing really quick and ending up behind them. And they're thinking, wow, you know, this happens on a regular occasion. I have to have my skill so I can make sure I can do this kind of thing. And they really go the wrong path when they think that way. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like almost a waste of time if you're just spending all this time and energy cultivating just, you know, to be able to beat people up, I guess.
It is. I mean, we do, many do cultivate martial arts to break heads, you know, and they refine their technique. And truthfully, in this realm of martial arts and the aspect of martial arts itself, you can have different levels not just of skill level, but level of mentality, level of vibration. To hurt somebody is very easy. Okay, you don't need to practice martial art to hurt somebody. Just pick up a cup and throw it at their face, and you hurt them. You know, if you're in the street and someone tries to hurt you, you take whatever you got in your pocket and stab them with it. I mean, a key, you know, your finger, all these things can be weapons. So you don't really need to study martial arts unless you have a fear. Then people will study martial arts because they fear, and then they'll end up not fearing anymore, and then, you know, they still won't throw out the perfect technique. They'll end up just taking their shoe off and beating someone over the head with it, you know, and there's your martial art training. So
Yeah,
that's
funny because when you do see people that have all these different styles, a lot of times when it does come down to the brass tacks, they just lose their style and just go go primitive.
Because it's strictly on the low level of fighting, really. Why I say low level? Because in the truth, in this vibrational mannerism of fighting, it's a very dense, aggressive level. It's a vibration that attracts and resonates itself. Anger, aggression, and greed. Greed, don't hit me. This is my body. I cannot allow you to overtake me, overtake this body. So it's greed for the body, greed for feeling superior. I want to be superior over this person, so I don't want to be hurt by this person. I have to protect myself. But then the ego gets involved in there in the aspect of superiority, and then it's like, well, I'm better. So a lot of people practicing their technique, not just because they want to be well in posture or whatnot, they want to actually be feeling the state of superiority over others. They don't realize that because they feel it's normal. Oh, I'm practicing martial art. I should be able to fight people and be fine with it, meaning not get beat up. You know, so if I'm not getting beat up, that means I'm better than they are. I'm faster, more on point. Okay, I could see things faster than they could and comprehend things faster. I'm more superior, which brings in thoughts of ego. So it really just keeps one vibrating on that mannerism, and that is a vibration that's very heavy. It's a heavy negative vibration. Sorry, all those guys out there who are very good fighters, who see martial arts as just a means to self-defense. It's not really. You can keep at that level because it's really what people make it. I mean, we can practice the same thing, and your practice gets you to a different place than mine will. It's only because of our capacity of understanding it. Just because we practice a form doesn't mean we're going to become some great, wonderful being of fighting. And that's not the highest goal in martial arts anyway, but it's the highest goal of a certain level of martial arts. So people can be really great fighters and skilled fighters. It doesn't mean they have wisdom. It has nothing to do with wisdom at all. Just because they're skilled at knowing how to move the body doesn't mean they're wise people. They can have worldly wisdom, but I'm talking about wisdom that's not of this world. Meaning it's of this world, but it's not common. It's not common wisdom in everyone's right in everyone's face, as is the wisdom of someone throwing a punch in your face, and all you have to do is dodge it. It's just common sense. Get out of the friggin' way. Don't stand in front of a moving train. Jump off the tracks.
In terms of what is more widely considered the internal arts, I guess Bagua, Xingyi, and Tai Chi. It's very apparent that there is a lot of spiritual cultivation techniques built into that to, I guess, ramp up the energy body, such as marrow wash and tendon ringing. I know in Tai Chi, there's also talk on a physical level that it sort of pumps the lymphatic fluid. I guess you could even say it pumps the chi.
Now, how is it possible that just doing this actually makes these things function of, cleaning out the body, moving blood and energy, moving liquids in the body, toxins, flushing them out? How the hell is that possible? It's nothing mysterious, really. It's just mysterious because we haven't really divulged enough time. We haven't put enough time into contemplating it and practicing it wholeheartedly without thinking this is a whole bunch of crap. Once you think something's a whole bunch of crap and you try and investigate or research it, you're really still going to have false thinking about it no matter how much truth that you find or no matter how much information you find that says it can do A and B, but you still doubt that it can do A and B, so your research is fruitless. You just have a lot more information that states what it can do, and there's no truth for you. It's simply, this is what I found it can do. I haven't experienced it, so, who cares? But in truth, it's not that the form itself, practicing a Baguazhang form or practicing a Tai Chi or Xingyi form is going to do that. In general, practicing any movement is going to make your blood move, so therefore the your energy is going to move better. It's going to give you some type of a workout, so it's good for your health. Because you're focusing on what you're doing, it's good for your mind. Okay, and if you're focusing where you're not thinking about what you're going to eat afterwards, then you're going to start cultivating an aspect of stillness. So that's good.
It's interesting you say stillness because you just sort of picked up on what I was actually going to discuss next. And that is in meditation, you have your body's stillness, but your mind can be in moving all around. Whereas when you practice some of these arts, such as Tai Chi Chuan, your body's moving, but your mind can be still. And I think it's in that stillness of the mind that's where a lot of the cultivation happens in the martial arts.
This is the key. It's called the non-discriminating mind. Whether it's Chan or whether it's Taoist, it doesn't matter. Whether you're doing whirling dervish practice, you're doing the whirling practices, the mind is in a state of non-discrimination. You're going to get far. As long as you cut out that internal dialogue, you will get far. You can be washing windows, but you're focused on what you're doing. Such a simple mindfulness. It's totally non-discrimination of what you're doing. Not saying, oh, I'm washing a window, la 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 la, look, there's this bird that fell out of the sky and it's falling 20 feet down, whatever. No, it's not that, you're being taken back and forth through your emotions or your thoughts. You're simply just doing what you're doing. That's it. There's no false thinking about what you're going to do later, what you're doing now even, or what you did yesterday, or not even listening to music. It's simply just doing what you're doing. That will get you far if you apply it in that state of internal or inner investigation.
I know, like when I'm practicing the form that I practice, it seems like the more my mind is there, the more I'm thinking about something, the less effective the set is. It's almost like if you try and achieve something, you're not going to do it. But if you just kind of let things happen naturally, then that seems to be when you have the best results.
Yes. Well, in terms of with the Taiji Chuan, um, we have to think. There's stories about Zhang Sanfeng who made up the forms, but then there's other people later on who also did similar practices or did a similar method to create their own mannerism of internal cultivation with movement, which resembles what people will call a martial art. Zhang Sanfeng, though, let's take it as the story goes, he wanted more. So he didn't want to just sit there and doing use his arts for fighting. He went and wanted to go use his arts for internal cultivation, an investigation of the mind. So he hid himself or put himself in a mountain, Wudang Mountain. So remember, he went into, as the story goes, he was in Shaolin first. He studied Shaolin stuff. And then he just utilized practices from his own understanding of internal cultivation from Shaolin and created the Tai Chi practice, what we consider Tai Chi Chuan. Not of the Yang or Chen, but just basic motion and application of non-discriminating mind or stillness mind. The mind that doesn't jump from emotion to emotion, thought to thought, vision to vision, sensation to sensation. Okay, it's just heavily focused on what you're doing. And then he made his way. That's how he entered his or further cultivated his path. Therefore, you have this dichomatic mannerism of Tai Chi Chuan being a fighting art and then a quote unquote a spiritual art. Well, actually, it's just an art. It's just a practice. How one takes it is going. That's that the way it's going to be. How one takes it is the way it's going to be. So, if I just practice Tai Chi Chuan for push hands and martial arts, I'm just going to develop a. I'll call it on this level of martial arts practice a very basic skill. Being a fighter and fighting very well without any internal cultivation, without any of the things we're going to be touching on, is very easy. Just practice your techniques constantly and then apply them with someone in sparring, and you'll be pretty well off. You'll be pretty well off in what you're doing. And you can be very good, very fast, very quick, understand how the body moves. Doesn't mean you're an exceptional martial artist. It means you're just very good level martial art, very proficient, but not proficiency in the state of exceptional. When I'm talking exceptional, I'm meaning you're cultivating your mind further. Means you will drop your ego. It has nothing to do with morals, it has nothing to do with dogmatic teachings, it has nothing to do with, oh, well, just to be a good person, let me do this. Excuse me. It has everything to do with what you realize sooner, what you realize along your path with the right influences, that beating someone in the face or blocking their hand, moving quick, looking cool when you're doing it, being able to knock them 3-4 feet across the room, 10 feet across the room, or over a car or whatever, it doesn't make you exceptional. It just makes you very skilled and very strong.
Okay. I was just gonna say there's one martial art style. You probably know the name of it. I don't recall it. And it actually has no offensive moves. It's totally defensive. It's just basically moving out of the guy's way. Almost like to the point where they exhaust them and they probably at the end of it just walk away, right? I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Would it be Aikido?
No, not Aikido.
Oh.
Aikido.
No, they actually do grabbing and locking in Aikido, right?
Yeah, Aikido's got some. It uses the enemy's force against, well, the opponent's force against them. It's a Chinese kung fu form. I can't recall it. I'll have to look it up for you. But yeah, it's basically there's no strikes, no kicks, just moving out of the way. And I
That's
thought
awesome.
that was. Yeah, it's really cool. Basically just exhaust the guy, and probably say, this isn't worth it, and walks away.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't hit the person, you lost. If you're going to take it on the level of, applying technique, fighting and whatnot, if you can't hit the person, if I can't hit you, the fight's not even, I didn't win. In that case of seeing who's better at a fighter, who can apply their technique, and if they actually beat the person up and sees that as winning, you're not winning. Not winning. So I mean, when I had gotten into some confrontations in the past, it was I just get out of the friggin' way. Just you can't hit me. I don't have to hit you to stop you. If you get frustrated, just leave. If you have no choice and you just dive at me, I'm gonna get out of the way, man. It doesn't just because I practice, or just because one practices an art that has blocking techniques and striking techniques doesn't mean that you must do those things to state that you are a martial artist or you are a fighter. I mean, hitting somebody and hurting them is so brutish and very basic in martial arts practice altogether.
Yeah, I know the argument's going to be from a lot of people that like, well, in certain situations, maybe you have to do that, right?
Hey, you know what? If you got five guys surrounding you and you're stuck in a corner and you can't make a right turn, you can't make a left turn, you can't go back, you can't climb up the wall, okay? And the only way to get out is to go through everybody, and they're giving you no room to move through, you probably are going to hurt them. You probably don't want to, but you don't want to get hurt yourself. So the argument's going to be, well, I don't want to get myself beat up, so I'm going to beat somebody else up. It, you know, it, you can't justify it that way. I would say at higher levels, at exceptional levels, the teacher or the person at exceptional skill actually inflicts no harm when they strike the person or subdue the fighter, their opponent. They don't. I mean, I'm not great, but I mean, I know I knocked people across the room with a double palm strike into the chest when they, tried grabbing my neck and kneeing me in the face, and they flew across the room, hit a wall, slid down, got up, and they were like, "That didn't hurt," And they try to do it again, and they're really trying to take my head off, and I do it again, and it didn't hurt. And you know what? I wasn't thinking I'm not going to hurt this guy, but inside I don't want to hurt the person. I personally just don't. I mean, people can think, oh, it's just, the moral, you take that idea, that ethical stance, whatever. I personally don't care for that. I personally care if I don't want to inflict pain. I don't want someone to inflict pain on me. So why am I going to inflict pain on somebody else? If it so happens that if I hit somebody, they don't get hurt, but they stop, then at least that person doesn't have any more false thinking. They can check themselves. But if I hurt them, they're going to be angry more and create more false thinking. And false thinking is the worst problem in the world to have instead of having a black eye.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not, you can sit there for days and weeks and months and years contemplating what the hell happened and how angry you are about it, if you want revenge or how terrible you feel that you got your butt kicked. And, I mean, I had fights where I've knocked someone in the head and they got a black eye and they felt terrible. Of course, everyone would feel terrible. I mean, I got hit in the face too. I mean, who cares? But I mean, the person would sit there going, "Oh, what the hell? I spent all these years practicing for nothing," and they just feel angry about themselves and terrible about themselves. And all the pep talk is just make them feel nice, but doesn't do much. So instead of inflicting that,
I was going to say, I heard a story about the founder of Muay Tai Chi sect. Now, I don't know how much truth there is to it, but this is sort of a third-hand story, that he witnessed some people in Chinatown giving a girl a hard time, and he just slowly walked over, and he never touched them, and they all just fell to the ground, like freaked out. And he said, it's so pointless to try and actually hit someone when I can just mess with their heart centers. I have no idea what he did, and I can't confirm that. That's just a story I heard, but just thought it was interesting.
Basically, people talk of special powers in practice, empty force and all that. And there's debates on whether it's true or not. There's people who claim to have it and then fight other people and get their butt kicked.
Yeah.
Just empty force, and then they get a punch in their face and they get knocked out. I think that's hilarious. But I'm afraid to watch those things because it's painful watching somebody just claim they can do it and get their butt kicked.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of those videos. Some dim mak masters, they try and knock people out with a dim mak. They can knock their students out, but they can't knock out like a third party type thing.
And just to clear up, dim mak doesn't mean deft touch at all. No, it means pressing point. It's dian xue in Mandarin. Okay, pressing the point. It's just acupressure. And if you press it at a specific time with a specific strength, not muscular strength. I mean, you hit anything with muscular strength, it's going to hurt and cause blockages in the energy centers anyway. But if you're looking for really intense blockages or quote unquote high level blocks where it creates sickness in the body, you need internal cultivation and cultivating that specific thing for a certain type of force for when you strike. Okay, then you actually can apply that kind of thing. But everyone wants to make it into a McDonald culture where I can teach this for you and you pay me some money, and every month I'll teach you a pressure point application, and you can do this and that to a person. Forget it. No, you got to cultivate for years. Sorry. These masters cultivated for years, not 2 years, not 3 years. They cultivated 10, 15, 20 years. And then we only see the end result and hear the stories and get amazed, and we think we can practice for a year or two and start getting extraordinary skill. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. The real traditional way of cultivating any martial art, whether it's internal or external, is hard friggin' work. 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. Because it doesn't matter, you're 20 years old, you're young. You're 30 years old, you're young. You're 40 years old, you're young. Once you start hitting 60, now you start to have some type of idea of what's going on. Okay, so all these exceptional, all these highly proficient martial artists who are out by 50 years old, 60 years old, they have some type of understanding of how the body works, have experience, and have some type of idea about things. But if they're just all about breaking heads and everything, that's not exceptional. That's just your regular guy, your regular martial artist. There's people at 30 years old, 20 years old saying I'm exceptional because I can knock off somebody's head, or I can break an arm really quick, or I can move really well in my forms. I'm sorry, you're just a baby. I'm 33. I'm a baby. Doesn't matter how well I can do certain things. I'm looking for exceptionalism. I'm looking to go further, and I'm not going to get it through just cultivating a physical body, cultivating my technique 5 million times, and just being fast at a strike, or fast at a block, or a kick, or a takedown. That just makes me a very skilled fighter at a basic level of fighting. So in the past, these old masters, they cultivated, and they didn't just cultivate the forms and hands-on application. They went into meditation. They cultivated internal cultivation, internal practices, meaning strengthening the organ system at the physical level, which strengthened their whole health level of their body. Then they went further and took it to the mental level, and they cultivated their wisdom. So they had some skill and means. They actually had some wisdom. Now, it's different. When we're talking about this, we're looking at the non-discriminated mind cultivation, which we'll see in Chan Buddhism, okay, and which we'll see in Taoism. But it's talked differently in Taoism. But I like to be a thorn in some sides, and I like to say there's no difference. So if I'm going to take the Chan principles of non-discriminating mind and the Taoist principles of, Wu Wei, okay, they're the same thing to me. There's nothing is relative, and all things are relative. Okay, so I'll put it in all my practice. I don't care if I'm practicing a Taoist art. I know people who practice what they consider to be Taoist arts, and they're Buddhist. Okay, and they have exceptional skill. Now, what is exceptional skill in the martial arts? Well, even if you're practicing karate or practicing your Korean arts or any other martial art, you're cultivating the mind. Then you'll start to become aware of how things move. And it's not that you become aware of how the body moves, right? It's not that you become aware how the body moves physically, but you understand how energy moves. And if you understand how energy moves, you understand how to apply posture properly in the body.
I was just going to say, it seems like a lot of martial artists tend to go through phases where they at first are, on a more physical level, but then as they get up in years and practice, they tend to develop wisdom almost automatically through their practices and then move on to the next phase.
Right, because they realize they're old. They can't do the same things they did when they were younger. Someone 5 years ago who's 65, now at 70, realizes 5 years ago they can't do the same things. They can't do those things. No, they realize now that they can't do what they did 5 years ago. So
do you think that's what it is? Is just that they're frustrated and they want to move on? Oh, okay.
It's humility. They humbled themselves. They realized that all that fighting stuff was, if they'd taken it at one specific level and used that as an expedient, the fighting was good when they were younger because their body was stronger. But now as they're getting older, their body gets weaker. They can't apply the same strong force. They have to apply something else, evasive maneuver, which means there but not there. Means the person can strike first, but I'm the first one who hits. The person can go for the strike first, but I'm actually the first person who hits you. Okay, you can be striking me dead on in my face, but actually I'm right behind you. Okay, so they realize how to evade attacks, which is basically straight up like water. Water goes straight up into something and goes around it. Okay, think of a rock in the middle of flowing water. The water goes right into the rock and then flows around the rock as well. So it goes forward and around. So while a person with exceptional skill may be coming directly forward at you, you're going forward into the person. They're going to be striking you at the sides and behind you while you're still going forward, resembling water going straight into the attack and then surrounding whatever is in front of it. Okay, they
So,
realize this. Maybe,
uh,
maybe not all do.
okay, so to go back to the cultivation aspect, and maybe I guess you're familiar with Tai Chi Chuan, I'm familiar with Tai Chi Chuan, and I think probably it's the more common internal art that most people are going to be familiar with. So from that aspect, would you be able to describe how Tai Chi Chuan cultivation works? Is it,
Okay.
taking up ground energy from the bubbling spring and pumping it out throughout the body? How exactly does it work?
Very cool. Now, people would think of this as something very manual. Okay, basically, look at it this way. When you're practicing Tai Chi Chuan, you're just practicing a form, first and foremost. Okay? The form itself doesn't make anything Tai Chi or Tai Chi. Tai Chi is the ultimate, supreme ultimate fist. Okay, that's how we translate it. But what makes it the fist supreme and ultimate is not the form. So when we're just practicing the form right in the beginning, we can say we're practicing Tai Chi Chuan, but it's better if we said we're practicing a Tai Chi Chuan form because we have nothing supreme and ultimate about our fist when we're just starting our form of Tai Chi Chuan. Okay? But the practice of Tai Chi Chuan, I mean. So in the beginning, we're adjusting the body, learning the motions, understanding the form, how to make the body be softer, how to relax our mind, and all that. We have to apply focus, non-discriminate focus. That means concentrate on what you're doing. Only focus on your breath and what you're doing. So you don't start thinking about what you're going to eat later, or if your legs hurt, or if you're feeling this from the bubbling well, or if this is happening at the baihui, if you feel pressure in your kidneys, if the mingmen is pulsing, if your dantian is moving, all this nonsense. It's nonsense in the beginning because there's too much to think about if that's what's being taught to you. Simply, just do your form. That's how it is. The function is manual in the beginning. You go through the process of remembering what you're doing. And then you start to become familiar with everything. Then you start applying your mind and concentration. That's when the fun stuff begins, actually. Okay? When we start realizing how to get into the form without hurting our body, no, there's going to be two levels about this I'm going to talk about. So this is the first level, just getting the form down, remembering all this stuff. And then even in the first level, I mean, we're talking about applying the mind. So now it's getting to the Qigong aspect. Some people learn the Qigong right away in the beginning of the form, which is how I teach it and how I was taught it. I mean, I learned Qigong as a child as well. But then my Taiji Sifu Rudy Curry, he taught me Qigong and the forms side by side. It's a necessary thing for us. Anywho, once you get everything down pat, then it's focus. What are we focusing on? Apply more focus on your breath. This is how the function of Tai Chi Chuan cultivation becomes a Tai Chi. It becomes a supreme ultimate thing. Because the mind now becomes stronger in concentration power. Then whatever intent you throw in there has will behind it. Think of will as the expression of concentration power. Okay? It's strong. So what you think will be. You intend something to be, you have the force behind it to let it go into motion. You just have the idea, you don't have the force. It's just, fart in the wind. Basically that's what it is. So, so we cultivate our Tai Chi Chuan with non-discriminative mind, focusing on our breath, then directing our intention of this energy inside to specific areas. That's the beginning. Now, what are the specific areas we want to focus our breath to? Well, we just breathe to the dantian. Breathe to the abdomen. Let the abdomen expand and contract. That will bring your focus down, bring your center of gravity back down. Because as we get older, our center of gravity rises. In the beginning, we're breathing from our abdomen, then we're breathing from our chest. At the end, we're barely breathing from our throat, and then boom, we're dead. It goes in these stages. So we want to be able to cultivate properly, control our breath, get our body nice and comfortable, and then start putting the education there. Start getting the knowledge.
Well, you say focus on the breath, but it's kind of paradox
Vague.
here because what's that?
It's vague. It's very vague. Right?
Well, part of me says you shouldn't have any thoughts in your mind when you're practicing, but then if you're focusing on your breath, is that a thought?
Okay. Focusing on the breath means all you're doing is breathing. Doesn't mean you're
Oh,
thinking
okay.
about your breath. Sorry. Let's work on that phrase. Focusing on the breath. The commentary on it is, you're not sitting there thinking if you're breathing properly. Not sitting there wondering if you're breathing from your nose or your mouth. The function is you breathe from your nose and out through your nose. You breathe in and you breathe out through your nose. That's it. Just breathe, and that's it. That's what focusing on your breath means. Just to breathe and let that just be. Don't think of anything else. You're inhaling, your abdomen gets bigger. You're exhaling, the abdomen gets smaller. Plain and simple.
The actual movements of Tai Chi Chuan itself almost have an automatic contraction and expansion that sort of guide the breath automatically.
Yeah, some postures you can only breathe in certain ways. Certain transitions throughout your posture, you cannot breathe fully into the dantian. They work certain aspects of the body. Sorry, you can't breathe into the abdomen all the way. It just happens normally. You realize this. Oh, whoa, what's this reverse breathing in this posture? How the hell is that possible? Because of just the way the transitions are. I mean, it may just end up that way.
It might have been the people that designed the forms may have built some of this qigong right into the set.
Well, who
Um,
knows? You have to. I mean, you can have any form of martial arts and then apply your mind to it and apply good thinking to it. I'm sorry, good breathing to it and whatnot, and you'll start to feel a warmth, a strengthening happening. But if the posture is curved in a way that causes harm to the joints, then you're not getting any other benefit except feeling comfortable and happy. You may get some power, but you're not getting a health benefit of that. You're not maintaining the body's health. Fun thing with Tai Chi Chuan is that it's structured. Oh, the form of Tai Chi Chuan is structured to keep the joints aligned, okay, and to adjust the weight to make sure the weight is proper. With an insubstantial and a substantial mannerism. If there's a heaviness on one space, there's lightness on the other space. Okay, heaviness on one foot, lightness on the other foot. That's why you see some motions where all the weight is on one foot and then you're in a cat stance almost, with you on the balls of your feet on the other foot. Substantiality and substantiality.
one of the things most people, or well, I shouldn't say most, but many people experience when they practice martial arts, you're going to have these sensations, and it's going to be similar to the type of things you experience during meditation. And some people would see that as a sign of progress, but I've also heard it said that uh, they're just meaningless, these sensations. And sometimes when you don't feel anything is when the most is happening when you're practicing your form.
Right. Now let's ask this question: if you haven't eaten in a week, and then you start to eat something, and you feel this great rush of blood and energy and fullness in your body, you're going to think that's the most extravagant, wonderful feeling in the world. And it's so wonderful. But to everyone else who eats all the times, it's just something so normal, so basic.
Yeah,
Right.
good way to look at it.
So with our practice, we have to see every sensation and every state we get as just nothing special. Why? Because when you meet somebody, if the chance comes, who's very exceptional in their cultivation of a Taiji Chuan or a Bagua Zhang or Xingyi Chuan, they're going to look at you going, you're still in kindergarten compared to, to what's out there. It's just a regular feeling. It's just like wind brushing across your face. It feels good for that moment. And then after the wind blows, you sit there going, oh, that felt really nice. And you just try to remember what that feeling is and try to get that back. You're going to feel sensations because blood and energy is moving through the body. One, because you're doing a physical exercise. That's just so plain and simple. And number two, if you're applying the workings of qigong or non-discriminating focus into your practice, you're going to start to feel things. You start to feel pressure at the feet. You start feeling tingling at the feet, maybe aching at the feet muscles, and then all of a sudden it disappears. Aching in the lower back, and then that disappears, or pulsing in certain areas of the body, tingling, vibrations, a certain stillness. All of a sudden the air around you or the sounds around you seem to have drowned out, or something like that. You get all these states and all these feelings, and they're just letting you know that something is going on. It's not that this is going to do anything for you greatly. Maybe people think, oh, I'm going to practice Tai Chi and develop the empty force and be able to blow people out of the sky, blow people all over the place with my thought, with my energy. No, you got to solidify that. It's not going to become easy just because you can feel like there's some magnetism between your hands and the ground or the trees or whatever around you, that you can feel like your hands are moving through water when they're moving through air. Um, doesn't mean you can do that. I mean, there's a lot more cultivation. I mean, it's like building a car. You need the right parts. You need them to function the right way. You got to put the right gas, and you got to maintain the body of that car for it to run well. Same thing with our body when we're utilizing internal cultivation, especially such as Taiji Chuan. You have to maintain your practice, and you have to, if you want for the car, if you want the car to go faster, you got to soup it up. You got to doll it up a little. Same thing with Taiji Chuan or anything else. So we can see Taiji Chuan as the form itself does nothing unless you apply its mechanism, unless you apply the workings that make that form mean something. Then it becomes a Taiji. Okay.
So some of the things that happen, I guess, when you practice Tai Chi, it seems like you're stirring up and circulating your body's energy or chi, however you want to term it. If you had like an injury, say a sore ankle or something, and could you focus on that at the end of the set to basically put your intention where that bad spot is to guide the energy there, or is that not recommended? Should we just let the energy do its thing?
Well, I mean, it's going to be fine either way. I mean, if you have a sprained ankle and then you want to practice Tai Chi on a sprained ankle, I would say it's a bad idea.
That was a bad example. Let's say.
But I got to admit that I've sprained my ankle younger, and I've just done Tai Chi on my sprained ankle, and it because of my background, I was able to do things for it that helped it. But I don't suggest anybody to try to do that unless they got some. I can't even explain. No, not even. Just don't do that. But anyway, what you developed in your practice prior to spraining your ankle, the directing of your mind or energy to specific areas of the body, which is be like equivalent to how people speak of directing the breath to certain areas of the body. It's not that what you have breathed in goes to actual different specific areas of the body, but that energy that's inside what we're breathing, the molecules, that electric charge that's in the air, we want to get that electric charge to move through the body more so and push that energy in. So the concentration power you developed through applying your mind in the forms, okay, you can take that and utilize it to work on your ankle, work on certain aspects that are sick in the body, then it would have benefit.
What about at the end of the set? Should you focus on your Danshan to bring the energy there? Again, I'm trying to draw the distinction between should we actually? Right. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I'm cutting you off as much as you're speaking.
That's okay. No, I was just gonna say, should we? What's the distinction between actively trying versus letting things happen naturally? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, in the beginning, go through the forms. Even if you don't focus on the dantian, you're not hurting yourself because, look, it's not an intense art where, you don't do this one thing and forget it. You're gone. You're off. If you never learn the method, then it's harmless. Then you don't know what's going on, and it's not going to cause pain or problems to you in this aspect for this realm of practice of Taiji Chuan. Okay? In the beginning, just practice your forms and go home. As you start getting familiar, or if your teacher is teaching you side by side right away, Qigong and all these functions of internal cultivation along with your form, then because you're knowing now, okay, you will be mindful. You will be like, oh, wait, I didn't do this. And then because of that false thinking that you didn't do it, you're going to create the idea that something wrong is going to happen, so let me go and do it. So just to be on the safe side, because it's not, when we say something's all of the mind, it doesn't mean it's not real. I mean, people mistake this phrase all the time. Everything is all of the mind anyway. The paperclip, a stupid invention like a paperclip was in someone's mind. I want to put something that makes paper stick together without tape, without glue. So they just got a piece of wire, bent it, and put it around their paper, and holy crap, they're millionaires, billionaires world over. Okay, something stupid like that. Oh, it's all in your mind. That shit ain't gonna work. Oh yeah, well it worked, and everyone and their mother uses a paperclip. So when you're learning the method, do it. If you're learning in the beginning, now you bring your hands down here to put your hand in the dantian, and you guys to teach it. What the hell does that mean? what dantian? Where is it going? Where am I putting it? What does it look like? Feel like? Smell like? Taste like? You know? And he goes, oh, it's over here. It's your navel down here in this specific area. Blah blah blah. Now understand each person has a different type of body. Their torso is longer, shorter. So dantian is a specific place according to the person. But anyway, once you start to know, then you start doing it. But if you don't know in the beginning those things, I'm putting chi in my dantian. It's not really going to do anything for you. It's just going to make you feel like you accomplished something. Sorry, I mean, really. But when you start to know, when you start to sit there and go, okay, the teacher's doing this, he says it this way because this is what's supposed to be happening. Let me apply that focus. Then you put it down. So if you're getting it in the beginning, do it. If you're not getting it in the beginning, don't worry.
Do you think there's any distinction between Qigong and internal martial arts? Or do you think
Qigong, well, Qigong is a coined term for cultivation of the breath.
energy work or breath work?
That's
Yeah.
all it is. So when someone says, I practice Qigong, and another person says, I practice Neigong, and they're fighting of which one is better, they're both wrong. Both wrong, because it's the same thing. Qigong is a coined term for breath work, and you use breath for everything. You can be sitting down on the toilet practicing Qigong while you're doing your business. Okay? You can be taking a shower doing it. You could be having sex doing it, feeding the baby doing it, but standing on your head, doing it while picking your nose. It doesn't matter. So people stop making this so much bigger. It's actually very simple. The Qigong is a coined term for breath work. And we use our breath when we do internal and external cultivation. Either way. External cultivation is cultivating from bones to joints, joints, tendons, muscles, okay? Strength building up, strength building. Internal is organs and mind. Actually, even external goes for the mind, because you need to utilize concentration for external and internal practice, both the same, in the same way too. Just the only thing that changes is the method and the focus. So for internal, it's focusing on organs. Someone says, I practice internal cultivation, and I want to open my wisdom and enter the Tao, enter the path, enter the way. So they go, well, you can do that with everything. I could throw bricks at a window all day long, concentrating my breath, and all of a sudden the shattering sound can wake me up. Who knows? So it can be very simple as that. So internal, cultivating the organs. Why do you need to cultivate the organs? Because you need to have a healthy body. If you're doing so much strenuous physical work, you are tiring out your muscles, tiring out the energy in your body. Then when that gets tired, it goes to the next level, internal organs, which is like the battery charge for the rest of this whole body. Okay? So you keep those nice and happy, everything else is nice and happy, and then you can be able to go further in your practice.
So do you think it'd be easier for somebody who would practice martial arts for, quite a few years? Do you think it'd be easier for them to get on the path of meditation?
It's not certain. You got to see the person. But if a person decides they've been doing 10, 15 years of hardcore training and practice, and they're very physically strong, and they have for the level of being physically well in the martial arts, they have exceptional skill for the level of being a martial artist, fighting and all that. They have good skill, like just exceptional skill, meaning they can fight really well. Okay, nothing to do with what I meant exceptional before. And they decide, hey, there got to be more to this. My joints are hurting. I'm feeling more and more tired now. What else can I do? And then they decide I want to go into cultivation. Then they realize all that physical training, not that it's useless. It's not useless. It just needs to be balanced out. And then when you start doing internal cultivation, which means you start developing a focus on the organ system, cultivating their breath, doing specific practices to make their energy higher and preserving their health, they will be able to open or realize certain types of wisdom. And certain types of wisdom is for...
Just one sec, Lynn. I believe you're breaking up.
Really? No way.
Yeah. I'll just give it a second here to see if it comes through.
Are we getting anything?
That sounds better now.
Okay, wonderful. Cool. So where did we leave off?
You were saying something robotically. You're talking about doing the robot?
Crap.
I don't recall. Let me think.
I think it was, let's see, talking about doing the organ stuff and whatnot. Right? Cultivating organs.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, it's coming back. All right, so let's pick up from here. Maybe we can edit a certain portion of the discussion at some point. Um, so cultivating the organs means you'll get a healthier body, and then you will be able to have more stable energy, which will allow the mind to not be moved by certain fluxes of energy happening in the body, health-wise or emotional. Um, it allows one, with the focus applied to cultivation, internal cultivation, it allows one to, quote unquote, detach from the states of feeling emotional, just emotional states, okay, and feeling uncomfortable things. So we feel pain here and there. It's not that we'll be detached and ignore, as detachment does not mean ignore, but here it just means that we're not going to be moved by certain feelings while we're sitting in cultivation or standing in cultivation or practicing a form in cultivation, you know?
Um, why do you think some martial arts are considered more internal than others? Like as we mentioned at the start of the interview, there's Tai
Right.
Chi Chuan, Bagua, and Xingyi are the three commonly discussed internal arts. But is there anything internal going on in karate or taekwondo, or is it again just depend on the mind of the person practicing?
Well, uh, they'll probably hate me for saying it, but no. Karate does have their own internal cultivation as well. They have their own type of practice, which makes their bodies stronger, health a little better, and then they have their meditation practices or their internal cultivation practices as well, which allow them to go deeper into their spiritual aspects or the wisdom aspects of their practice. So they also know that fighting is a very dull mannerism. It's not the highest point. You can be a sucky fighter, but be very wise about things. Okay, and that's much more considered. It's considered much more of a better thing to be than being so great at knocking heads. Why not be wise about it too, and realize that you don't have to do that in order to succeed, in practice. So Taekwondo, I don't know if they have any type of that type of deeper internal cultivation. Um, but why is Taiji Chuan, Xingyi Chuan, and Bagua considered internal systems? Because they work the internal organs. They work to strengthen the internal body, which means the organs, basically. Then it goes deeper, because we're applying this type of concentration to our within our breathing, just the natural aspect of breathing. We're applying the mind in a non-discriminative way. We're not false thinking. We're not thinking of other things. Not daydreaming. We're just really doing what we're doing. That itself is the spark for all the function of everything else to happen. And then that itself also is the key mannerism to opening up wisdom, to quote unquote opening up wisdom or realizing the inherent wisdom we have. That's why they have internal practice of Taiji, Bagua, and Xingyi, people becoming very wise, entering the Tao. They are entering the path of a wholeness cultivation, the cultivation of the way, which is what? In this aspect, it is cultivating of the way of opening up a wisdom. That's all it is. Because you're going to ask these people, oh, you're immortal. What the hell's that? Doesn't mean anything to me. Wisdom is what's more important. So you'll realize wisdom through these practices if you apply your mind to the function, apply your mind with the function of the methods.
Well, it goes back to the fact, or the opinion, I guess, maybe not a fact, that um, the internal arts were created around more spiritual disciplines such as Taoyin. So could it be that those aspects that were taken from Taoyin plant the seeds for one to um, achieve the Tao?
Understand that anything can allow one to achieve the Tao as long as they're applying that kind of non-discriminative thinking. Okay, the mind of the non-discriminative mind. When we say achieve the Tao, means to realize internal wisdom, or realize inherent wisdom, realize the way things are as the thus nature of all things. That's realizing the way. People say, "Oh, that's the Buddhist way of saying it." So who cares? It's the Buddhist way of saying it. That's the language I speak. But no one's going to tell you different. The meaning is going to be the same. I mean, if you say it in any other language. Okay, so the Taoyin was internal cultivation. Okay, the Neigong internal cultivation. That would be the method that is used to strengthen the concentration of the mind. In turn, results in better health. And because the mind is being concentrated, because you're not daydreaming, you're not focusing and wondering about other things while you're practicing, stillness is attained. But you're still moving the body. But it's stillness. The mind is still. That means you're not being taken all over the place. So if one is practicing from going, I'm so calm and peaceful, stillness and motion, you're totally way off the mark. It's not that you're you're enjoying the fact that you're really calm and peaceful while you're practicing your thing. Just because you're thinking while you're practicing, you're not calm and peaceful. That's not calm and peaceful. Doesn't matter how you feel, how wonderful life is, and how good and calm and relaxed you feel, and you're thinking, "Oh, this is so nice. I like my Tai Chi Chuan." You're not still and peaceful. When there is no discrimination on the sky above, the earth below, they both don't exist. You understand true peace. So those practices, like you mentioned, they are what you can say is the method that's utilized to allow the mind to be strengthened.
One thing I've heard too is that certain arts tend to flex and tighten and tense everything up, and that obstructs the energy from flowing, whereas the internal arts are looser and they allow the energy to move more freely.
When one doesn't know the hard, attaining the soft is very difficult. So if one were to go research a little, many of these high-level masters or exceptional masters, or when I say master, I mean exceptional practitioners who have wisdom, okay, who have entered that wisdom state. To me, that's mastery. Not being able to kick someone's butt from here all the way to California, it doesn't make someone a master to me. It doesn't matter. That's my opinion. People may not like it, not agree, not my problem. These exceptional practitioners, cultivators in the past, the old guys, they've practiced hardcore fighting. They've practiced hardcore training, trained the body hard, kick, punch, hundreds, thousands of times, And then they went to the next stage, was to go softer. They understood what it felt to be soft. Okay, but if one just jumps into the soft right away, they would not really understand yet how to apply it, how to issue force. So they would learn a little, unless their training involved some contraction exercises, okay, a mixture of I'll call it complete cultivation within Qigong, which is both Neigong and Weigong, external and internal practices coined together. And how do you do that? The hard and soft in one motion, in one practice while you're doing it. That's just, methods to talk about. Really easy. Very basic, though. It's just like contraction and relaxation methods. So if you're taught a Qigong practice of hardening and softening, then you practice your Tai Chi Chuan to develop softness, then at least you got a jump start. Some Tai Chi Chuan, like a Chen style, practices the hard snapping and hard contractions and hard striking along with moving fluidly all within the form. So that's pretty good to work out with too.
Yeah, I heard. I once met a Wing Chun teacher in Brooklyn who who said that you couldn't really appreciate the full yin of yang style Tai Chi. Ironically, yang style Tai Chi is almost totally yin compared to Chen. He said, if you practice Chen, you can appreciate both the hard and soft, and then you can understand yang better.
Right. Well, he's basically meaning.
We won't mention any names.
No, we can't mention any names, but really cool guy. What he means is exactly what we're saying. There will not be a good distinction, a wise distinction between how to issue force and how to receive force, how to borrow force and how to give force, how to evade. Okay, it's not going to be a proper understanding just yet. It'll take a little bit longer. So if one had any type of practice of hard kung fu, or in this case, something that did not develop a soft cultivation prior to them taking a Tai Chi Chuan, and then they take a Tai Chi Chuan practice, they would understand. They would have an idea of how to relax and how to put that internal softness there. But if one just jumps into a young style Tai Chi or a Tai Chi focused only on slow motion, soft motion development of the softness power, um, it probably may take them a little bit longer to attain some realization or realize some things than it would if someone else. It may not. That's really dependent, but most times people will only get the nice fuzzy feeling of being full with chi, bright-eyed, and warm. They won't go any further than that because there's no function. The function of issuing force is not developed unless they've trained a long time. That's the key. Someone thinking they're going to attain some great powers of Tai Chi or some skill in issuing force within a year or two of training is out of their mind. You know, you got to go into 10 years, 15 years. People say you don't know martial arts. The saying in China is you don't know martial arts unless you study Tai Chi for at least 10 years. Okay, you don't know anything unless you practice that. Well, that's just a saying for meaning, you know, you don't know your body unless you really investigated it with the Tai Chi Chuan and cultivated your mind.
Yeah, that was one of the things that attracted me to Tai Chi, is that it's not one of these mixed martial arts where you can go get a black belt in, a year and a half and
Right,
think you've achieved something. It's something you've got to
right.
work at, for a
And
long time before you develop any skill.
right. And a lot of people use this specific thing about Tai Chi Chuan to put it down. They say, well, Tai Chi Chuan takes you a long time to realize how to use it when my art can take you, 3 months and you'll be somewhat okay. So, that's why they made this specific art, to make it a little faster so you can become a better fighter. You don't have to sit there wasting 10, 15, 20 years figuring things out. That's wrong. That's a really wrong thing to say, not because people, they may think it's true. Actually, it's a false. It's not actually any logic in there. Because to be good at anything takes time. Like I said before, you can be very good in 3 months practicing how to hit somebody. And you practice it every other day for a few hours, and you'd be very good, proficient at that specific technique or a few techniques you practice in the 2-3 month period. Um, but it doesn't mean you know anything at all. It doesn't mean one is really great. It just means they know they know how to move with that technique. It
They know
doesn't
enough to know enough to be dangerous to themselves, even maybe.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we got to think we can use Tai Chi Chuan to become, really good at fighting, but then the fighting is still a level. I mean, I can teach someone how to utilize a few techniques in Tai Chi Chuan, and they just practice those techniques. They're good at defensive practice, offending and defending practices. They can block and strike, or evade and strike, or receive energy and give it back. But when I say receive energy, give it back, I mean literally just a parry away of the strike, and receiving the force by that way and adjusting it. That's and striking it back. That's so basic, though. Anybody can practice that. Doesn't mean they know Tai Chi Chuan. Just means they know how to use a form for martial application to a very low level.
So maybe we could discuss a few ways that the listeners could make their own arts more internal. Do you have ideas?
Well, all it is just apply standing, Zhenzuang, standing practice, sitting practice. Standing practice is very necessary. Don't think standing for about a half hour a day is going to get you anywhere soon. It's not. It's like running on a treadmill. You're standing in one spot, moving your legs. You want any good skill, not in a short period of time, but in a long enough period of time where you can say you've gotten something. Study your standing practices for at least an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, at least, if you really want to go somewhere, and do it nonstop. Don't think a year later you should be done, or 60 days, or 90 days, or 100 days. You're doing it for 3 years. I still do my standing practices for the last 20 years. Okay. You
So,
still do.
just a quick question about the standing practice. Now, when they do that, could they be standing watching TV, or should they be standing, mindlessly somewhere?
Our Western culture allows us to think multitasking is a way to get things done, but it's not a way to fulfill. So no, don't be watching no TV, no cartoons, no movies, no porn, guys. when you're standing, Music, people think, oh, it's so boring on apply music. Well, did they have radios in the old days, really? And I mean old days like 100, 200, 300 years ago? No. You really want to get forward, practice it the way it was practiced. Don't listen to anything. Let all the sounds around you be your music. Let the sounds that your body makes be your music, whatever the sounds are. Let that entertain you, but don't let it move you. How does it entertain and not move? Very simple. Don't attach to it. Stand, you're standing. Sit, you're sitting. Moving in your form, you're just moving in your form. The only way anyone is gonna attain any type of skill is if they apply the non-discriminating mind and cut out the internal dialogue. Pretty much.
So that's it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to leave it just like that. Let's just give some methods of practice here. In the case of a Taiji Chuan, Bagua, Xingyi, these are all good practices to loosen the body, strengthen the body, both muscular wise, posture wise, which is skeletal wise, and organ wise, and will also strengthen the mind if you apply the methods properly. That means you practice your ass off through your forms, you practice your ass off through your zhenzhuang, your standing practices, and your sitting practices. Apply your mind and do not be moved by sensations, thoughts, or anything else around you. I mean, I can go through the list, but I already said it earlier. And practice. Don't assume, oh, this is going to get me this skill. Who cares? It's not important. What's important is that you do the work. What's inevitable doesn't need to be questioned, doesn't even need to be sought for. Push hands is very important. Whether Bagua Taiji and Xingyi, you do push hands to understand the give and take between two people, the give and take between two different types of vibrational forces, okay? You understand how your body can move, you understand how the other person's body can move, and you'll understand other areas of your body or of your mind that you are not yet cultivated well enough in, so you learn to put things down. As Master Zheng Manqing said, invest in loss. Okay, martial arts can get you to, in our time now, which is the last, I would safely say maybe 800 years or so, maybe longer. Martial arts is very, very good for realizing wisdom, only if applying techniques of meditation in your standing and in your sitting and in your form practice. And the technique is non-discriminating thinking, which means you're not thinking, which means you're not thinking, you're not thinking, which means you're just doing what you're doing. Okay, you have that in Chan practice. So I would say research Chan, find a good teacher to teach meditation, which is not guided meditation, which is not musical meditation, which is not, bliss state meditation or transcendental meditation, all this stuff. All those things I just mentioned come within your practice of meditation automatically. Find someone to teach you just the workings of meditation. That's important. And you apply those principles to your standing. And you apply those principles to your movement. Then, and only then, will you be able to awaken or realize that some levels of that inherent wisdom. It's not going to take a year. It's not going to take 3 years. It's going to take maybe 15 or 20 years. Why? That's just the way it is. We so much see the end result of these exceptional people who we can look up to, like Zhang Sanfeng, like Sun Lutang. I'll just say it in the way people can remember, recognize the name. Sun Lutang. Now all these names elude me. Even the style for Yichuan, okay, that is great. The Baguazhang teachers of old, the Xingyi teachers of old, the Tai Chi teachers of old, they practiced, okay? They did the work, and they've studied. No 1 year, no 2 years, and all of a sudden we're jumping off buildings, flipping all over the place, doing it. We're going 20 years, 30 years. And they did it at a young age. That's why when we see the end result and we see them at 60, 70, with them in stories doing certain things, we're sitting there thinking, well, I'm 40, I could practice, and by 45, I should be okay. Who said there's supposed to be a time frame on it? There isn't. So please don't get too far off here. Practice, 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 because things are different for everybody. You have to practice. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. That's not a long time, considering we can live 100 years, 120 years. Okay? We can even live more. You just have to proper diet. Don't think you can eat your hamburgers till you're 40, till you're 50, 60, 70, 80 with no health problems. Sorry. You got to adjust your health. You have to adjust how you eat, have to adjust how you think, what you see, what you say. These things ruin your energy. You have to adjust it. I wrote an article on a forum some time ago on Tai Chi, and I just wanted to leave everyone with it. Maybe if there's a question that comes out of it, that's good. So it's going to be a little robotic because I'm going to be reading off of it. So, excuse me for that. Tai Chi Chuan, just the exercise of the form is only an exercise, a martial art. When we take away the Qigong and the philosophical teachings and simply practice the form, it results in basic health benefits with martial applications, which result in basic defensive abilities. Tai Chi Chuan, which focuses on cultivating softness, Fa Qing, Qigong, and all those little fun things we hear about, which is our outcomes or regular results of things. It just remains a basic product of our cultivation. Add to it martial arts applications, you have a basic fist form. Nothing Tai Chi about it, really, like we talked about earlier. So we talked about what makes Tai Chi Chuan, what makes a Tai Chi in Tai Chi Chuan already. So we'll have to go into that one because the article speaks on some of the points I spoke of before. I just pulled it up on my computer just as a reference to us. So basically, the article goes on, but I'm going to go out to this aspect. The application of concentration while practicing allows for one to focus on that which is impermanent. Thus, the idea of stillness in motion, stillness of the mind, movement of the body. Why is the mind said to be still? It is said to be still due to not being moved by sensations, the senses, states, or even the form itself. And there is much to cultivate with the Tai Chi Chuan, for it is not just a martial art, but a cultivation method which leads to the realization of the one and the zero. Then it is the total non-discrimination on the one and the zero, the realization of the thus nature. This can be said also to Bagua and Xin Yi Chuan, or anything else, as long as you're applying those methods we spoke on earlier on the non-discriminating mind. It's all in there. Levels in between may be states of different realizations of how Qi moves in the body, how it is intended, willed, how to alter the flow of things, issue force, developed sensitivity, speed, evasiveness, martial application, etc. These are just levels one may inevitably reach through their practice. What is not certain is if one will realize their inherent wisdom and see past the duality of their mind, see past the nature of the relative world around them, and put down false thinking. Anything can be a Tai Chi Chuan. All it needs is its workings is one yin and one yang. Okay, all these other styles of Tai Chi Chuan are names of people who've just adjusted what they practiced. That's all it really is. Practice methods will vary. The fundamental principle is the same. Taoist cultivation is about purifying the mind, not the body only. If the body is pure, the mind must be pure. If the mind is pure, the body is inevitably pure. So pure refers to putting down the ego and ridding oneself of defiling thoughts. Some think it's a moral stance or a principle of conduct, but it's not. It's exactly the overall direct pointing to the original nature of each and every one of us. So I'm not going to go on with the article. It just goes on to like 3 more short paragraphs, but in general, people get the idea. And let's look at very quickly. Tai Chi Chuan, is it a Taoist art? Is Bagua a Taoist art? Xin Yi Chuan a Taoist art? No, and yes. Why is there a dichotomy? Because Bagua the Taoist had a circle walking, according to, I assume, the I Ching, the 8 trigrams. Okay? They had the circle walking, but what developed the Bagua later on, some practitioners of Bagua already had Shaolin martial arts training. So they took their Shaolin Kung Fu stances and applied it to the way they flowed in Bagua So if someone's going to argue and say Shaolin is no good for internal cultivation and Bagua is a total Taoist art, totally out of your mind, because the circle walking of Bagua is from a Taoism practice. A certain practice is internal cultivation in Taoism. Okay, then you had the yin yang papanjang, which is I don't know how to translate it in English. These are qigong practices, standing practices, and moving practices that it strengthen the internal organs. These are amazing things. And people don't practice them for 6 months and all of a sudden they're great and happy and wonderful and powerful. No, they go for years. And then, later on, you add in a little, eagle claw, you add in a little tiger claw in there, or whatever it is that you want to practice. You add it into the way things move. And then you have several different styles of Bagua. So, really, what does that mean? And the same thing goes with the Taiji Chuan. You'll have several different family styles of a Taiji Chuan. Well, anyone can make up a Taiji Chuan style as long as it adheres to the principles of yin and yang, insubstantiality and substantiality. Once it relates to that as its foundational principle, picking your nose can be Taiji Chuan. Okay? Nice and slow going up there, picking a winner. Okay? Anything can be a Taiji Chuan at that point. All right? Xingyi Chuan, the same thing. Because it deals with getting into the states of the vibration of specific things, strengthening the internal organs through those methods, being able to issue specific powers characterized by the elements, characterized by certain animal stances and practices and postures, becomes something very strong and good. And you can also just adjust things here and there and make it a Xingyi Chuan, make anything a Xingyi Chuan. That lets us know one thing, though. Okay, which goes to my question. So why is that? Why is that possible? How is it that people can change things here and there? Because in the old days, traditionally, people adjusted their kung fu. They didn't sit there and train with one, well, probably they did, but not all, train with one person for 40 years only. That one person who was their teacher told their student, their disciple, okay, 3-4 years down the line, okay, you know what? I taught you pretty much everything I could. Why don't you go to my friend over there in this school and let him teach you a few things there too? Okay, so he'll go to this guy and learn. Then he'll go to another guy and learn. He gets introduced by their second teacher, and then the third teacher introduced to another dude, and they start training him to strengthening his teachings, giving a well-rounded development of cultivation. Why? Because it's not about how great one specific art is. It's about the individual and their own development as a human being. So they got in aspects of different experienced individuals and put it together. Then they took all their workings of all their forms that they learned, or techniques or whatever, and formulated it in a way that fit their capacity, their level of understanding, their mental level. Then they created the form that they have. That's why all this fight about which one's a traditional form and which one's a new modern form is useless. It's totally useless, because the old days, none of it is traditional. What is traditional? Never changing the way something was taught ever. Then that means you are on the same level of that teacher back then. You did not change. You did not grow. There was no evolution in your development. There was no development. Okay, so you're stale. You're dead. It's impossible. Everything that was taught from the old days has always been modified by the newest generation. And the reason why it was able to be modified is because the newest generations, back in the old days, studied, actually did their damn work. They spent 10, 15, 20, 30 years doing what they did. And throughout the course of their 15 years, maybe by the time they were about 10 years into their practice, 13 years in their practice, they started to adjust things a little bit further, more and more. And they made their own specific way of doing it. That's what a style is. It's their person's own flavor, the way that person understands things. When you see that person moving in their form and it's their specific style, that's their understanding. That's the level they're on. Is it good or bad? Who cares if it's right or wrong? That's the level of that person. So if it's right or wrong, and you want to tell that person you're full of it, that doesn't work, go to that person and fight them. Okay? But if that person loses in the battle, losing meaning gets their butt kicked, okay? It doesn't mean what that person was doing was wrong or useless. It just means maybe that person didn't put enough time in the practice of their applications of martial stuff, their martial applications. Maybe they're more interested in the internal cultivation of wisdom practices, so the fighting aspect is totally not necessary. Or maybe they can fight, but their movements and how they have grown lets them posture themselves in a way that they don't even have to hit the opponent. They just move out of the way, evade, thinking, why do I have to hit the opponent for? Me hitting someone doesn't mean I'm good or anything. Anyone can hit anyone at any time. If one wants to be the best and win all the time, just get a gun and do the rest from there. It's just that way. Fighting is simply a general expression of aggressive skill, basically, you know. They are not being totally passive, you know, moving out of the way. Their movement is yang, active, and they're not being in the way of getting hit is yin. So that you can say is passive. So they don't need to hit you. Basically, martial arts, everything evolves. And it only evolves with merit, stability, structure, with a quality due to diligent practice. Searching for fame and all the glamour simply taints one's efforts and poisons one's practice and character. It is more of a disservice than anything else. Practicing for greed of attaining skills, abilities, etc. is also something which taints one's character and mind. Simply just practice and drop the ego. Old masters knew that. And only certain students, you know, they only chose certain students to train. Humility, trustworthiness were the most important characteristics.
You've said enough to tick off the traditionalists.
Yeah, traditionalists also added their own ideas, you know. If they were to turn around and say their styles were true, real, and only traditional, I would ask, well, how long ago and how long ago had it been changed? There's no such thing. Traditional is the fundamental teachings of a style, the principles, you know, like yin and yang, a human body structure, not the way someone looks or is supposed to be. There's no such thing as a style which never changed from the first person who transmitted it. If it was never changing, it would not have survived throughout the ages or even just several generations. So all this talk about, quote unquote, you know, I am the only true, real traditional way of this and that style. It's nonsense. Even the most modern of proficient teachers changed the ways they were taught in order to fit the minds of later generations. Forms can be whatever they want to look like. It doesn't matter. The arts I practiced were changed by my predecessors, and I also have changed things as well.
Well, Lynn, I think I'm going to go over there and challenge you to the death.
Oh, no, please. You know, but I'm sure what I'm saying would tick off some people. I mean, especially if it comes to my style, like Wing Chun, you know. I mean, I practice Wing Chun, but I also practice a lot of other styles. Many claim, you know, in Wing Chun there's a man called Yip Man, you know. Many claim that he's just the sole traditional, you know, the really true Wing Chun. In fact, he changed his forms to be a little bit more simplified. The forms his teacher taught, well, he didn't teach, or at least I haven't seen anyone promote that. It was told that he felt people may not have had the patience to practice as in depth as he was taught. So, you know, Yip Man said, you know, he was said to be like a great fighter, but that's because of his skills he developed from practicing what he learned. Since he changed his ways, can we say he is truest, only traditional Wing Chun? Like he's the only true Wing Chun? Not really. We can say he follows tradition in keeping up the fundamental principles of the style, but he changed the forms, and there's nothing wrong with changing forms to fit the mind of the person.
Yeah, and if you didn't tick people off, you probably wouldn't be telling the truth.
Ha!
Well, I'll leave it at that.
Well, you know, I spoke to people, and I learned a lot about the past, both in my own system and lineage, as well as others. You know, it just takes constant practice, meditation, and internal cultivation. As you go further, one has to drop ego. The highest level on the basic level, you know, is to learn from others. Higher on the spiritual level is to learn compassion. So go deeper and be with the way of nature, the original nature of all things, our true nature, and our inherent wisdom.
All right, maybe we should close it on that note. And thanks, Lynn, and thank you for listening to Expedient Means. Please join us next week when we discuss the microcosmic orbit meditation.